All right, folks, welcome once again. Another edition of Boxing Chit. Joshua City here, Joshua City Brewer, that is, along with Boz, Mr. Boz, man, slaving himself. How's it going, Boz?
Yeah, it's kind of windy over here, yeah, but otherwise not that bad, yeah.
Cool, cool,
Mm,
cool. Here, weather's been great. Just been, chilling. I had a boxing event yesterday. It was outside. It was super sunny, so
cool.
ended up being sweaty and just feeling icky
Yeah,
at the end of it. But it was worthwhile though because we had a good time in the community here in DC and represented.
nice.
Saw some boxers as well who are doing their thing from both the amateur and pro level. So it was a good time overall. But cool.
I
Oh,
was also I was out of the city on Thursday and Friday. I was visiting a friend, so I also kind of feel refreshing. Yeah,
all right, good to go. Good to go. Well, we also had a high deal of boxing action that was taking place this weekend. I mean, left to right, you name it. It was just boxing nonstop. So I wasn't even able to catch everything. I caught a
yeah.
good bit of it, but certainly a lot to talk about here today. Real quick, shout out to Mr. Pads, who's in the building. Says big up Josh and Boz. A lot to talk about today. Firstly, wow, what a dominant performance from Wood against Lara. Excellent plan to avoid fighting too much on the inside, in my opinion. And speaking of such, that's one we could start with. Leigh Wood taking Mauricio Lara. So Mauricio Lara came into the contest defending his WBA World Featherweight
Mm,
Championship, which he had picked up by knocking out Leigh Wood in their previous fight, which took place, I believe, in February.
yeah,
That being said, hopes were high in this one for Leigh Wood. He came back, he went to the drawing board, changed some things up, and he wanted to come out and show what he had learned in between that time. And realistically, he kind of picked up where he left off before being knocked out in his last contest because he was having some good moments against Laura last time around as well. But in this one, he made sure to stay focusing on his game, and he didn't get close enough to where he could catch one of those bombs that would ultimately drop him. And he went on to
yeah,
win I believe it was unanimous decision, right? Was it
yeah.
unanimous?
He did.
Yeah, unanimous
Yeah,
decision, and really, it wasn't even in jeopardy at any point for him as far as losing. In watching it, which I just actually finished watching it, I gave Lara maybe a round or two for sure, one round, but definitely two.
yeah,
Would have been kind of tops. And I couldn't see. I could see no more than three. I guess you could say. So it was a great performance by Leigh Wood. What do you
oh
think,
yeah.
or what were your thoughts on his overall performance and what this means for him here in the future?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Lara was actually stripped of the title for missing the weight, not
Oh yeah,
making the weight, but so it was just as well that he won, Lee Wood won, because otherwise nobody would get the title. So,
true. That is correct. You're right.
yeah, and if Lara had won, of course, then it would have been vacant. So, but anyway, the fight, yeah, Lee Wood really dominated. I mean, also last time he was pretty dominant, and but I thought maybe Lara was just having an off night, but no, it just turns out that Lee Wood's style is all wrong for Lara. He's kind of a rangy, big featherweight who can box and keep him at distance at bay with his combinations. That's what he did here. Also, he actually even put Lara down once in the second round. And as you know, yeah, I know that Lara did for sure win round five. That's the one I'm sure about. While others, I know that Bellew gave him the round three, maybe he
Yeah.
won that one as well. But that's all pretty much that I thought had him winning. So he was really not looking that good. I mean, he would have like spurts of activity where he would maybe land one or two good punches, but that's pretty much it. And Wood was really effective in just shutting him out and staying away from that left hook, of course.
Oh
which he
yeah,
knew he had to do, of course, this time. Last time he really was unfortunate, you must say, because he was winning that fight also handily. So, yeah, I guess for Lara, this leads probably to 130, moving up. I mean, given that he also missed the weight and didn't look good here, and yeah, so
yeah.
that's not
Yeah,
sure.
that definitely adds to the mix there. But yeah, good point in mentioning that he did miss the weight, so he was stripped of the title. I
Yeah,
remember seeing that late yesterday, or late that the day prior, that he did actually miss the weight. Which certainly, once you reach that point, then it probably does mean it's time to move up. And 130 is a class where there's a lot of opportunity there as well. Looks like Oscar Valdez and Emmanuel Navarrete are on a collision course, and these will be the individuals who will ultimately probably come out as, or one of these two will come out on top, at least for the time being. But it's still very much a weight where a lot of noise can be made. Now, the question
yeah,
is whether Laura he can put things together in a manner to get him back in the right mix or get him back in the good graces of the fans and his ability moving forward when dealing with a boxer who can move and
yeah.
who isn't going to stand there and trade with him, which it
Mm,
was the case with Leigh Wood, who chose to operate more from the outside. And Wood's a
yeah,
bigger, longer fighter, just lengthier, I would say. And he used his size well. And Lara found himself routinely kind of just stuck in the mud. He wasn't throwing a ton of shots. And that doesn't
yeah,
bode well when you're seemingly looking for a single shot to try and change the game. And he does have the type of power that can change things at a moment's notice. But of course, yeah, where he fell behind in this one was there were just far too many moments where he was just plodding forward, essentially looking to get set to throw a punch, but wasn't really throwing much otherwise. And Leigh
yeah.
Wood took advantage. And now he's the man again. He has the belt, WBA World Super Featherweight or Featherweight Championship
Right, right.
actually, and he gets to keep his name there in the mix as one of the top fighters in the sport around that division and or weight class. Now I did see mention of a potential clash with there's someone else. It's not ringing a bell at the moment, but I believe there's someone else who is not far off from there, and I'll have to look up the ring ratings or whatever to see who he could potentially be matched up against.
Well, the guy that actually also won this weekend, maybe Luis Alberto
Yes,
Lopez.
that's who it is. Luis Alberto
Mm,
Lopez. That is who it is. And I missed that fight. I need to see that fight where he took Mickey Conlon, of course, knocking him out. And that
yeah,
is a
well,
clash right there, a unification clash that is seemingly very doable. And that might be what's next. Leigh Wood versus Luis Alberto Lopez. And I think that's a very good fight. I like how Lopez has looked. You have the little rivalry that is going on right now between the Brits and the Mexican fighters, in a sense. So this adds to that, and I think it makes for an exciting potential matchup there. So, what do you think of Leigh Wood, Luis Alberto Lopez, who can be awkward and tricky at times?
yeah, well, I haven't seen that much of Lopez to be honest, but I did watch his Warrington fight. Yeah, yeah, he can be tricky, I guess, and also has a good work rate and all that. Yeah, hard working fighter. I really didn't see this happening. Him stopping Conlan in 5 rounds. That was really unexpected, but I guess he
Yeah,
pulled off that big, yeah, miracle punch. But yeah, I mean, against Wood, I can see definitely a really good fight. Maybe even a great fight, much more even than the one we saw last night, and with Lara, of course. And yeah, I think Lopez is a bit better technically than Lara, probably. He's not so dependent on just knocking the guy out, pretty much.
yeah,
As Lara is. So yeah, he's a better boxer, I would say.
yeah.
But yeah, So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
haven't
he is.
seen
He's a
that
bit more
much.
craftier. He's a bit more
Yeah.
craftier, has a lot of awkward movements and the way he
Mm.
places shots, where he throws them from, all of that stuff. So he is one who is going to be a very interesting matchup for Leigh, and that may be what is next. And I think that it will be a good one. I suppose it will take place over there in the UK just to keep things going in that manner. So I look forward to it. Real quick, shout out to the TikTok users, boxing shit. We're here talking boxing, of course. Gonna keep it going. Mr. Pad says, secondly, wow, good finish from Nick Ball against Lorani. However, it looked to me like Lorani may have collapsed in the corner and he got carried out on a stretcher, praying he's okay. I haven't actually seen that fight, Mr. Patch, but just so happens I saw a little bit earlier here that, yeah, he was stretchered out. Lorani, that is, in that loss. He was able to finish the 12th round, of course, but they had to stretcher him out because of that collapse, as you mentioned. And he's in the hospital. I guess they're waiting on some form of updates, but I'd imagine more will be coming out here over the course of the next uh, several days. I don't know if you saw that, Boz, or caught the fight. I wasn't able to catch the fight, but I do
No.
like Nick Ball. I've seen him a couple of times, and he's a little compact, somewhat powerful boxer puncher, I guess you can say.
Yeah,
A
I've seen.
compact guy and solidly built.
I think I've seen him fight at least once, but was that on the undercard of Lara versus Wood,
I
or on the
believe it
other?
was. I believe it
Yeah,
was on the undercard of such. And
right. Because I
yeah, this
came a
is
little, yeah, I
you
came a
came in a
little
little
late.
later. Okay,
But
good
yeah,
to
I
go.
think maybe, yeah, that's right. I did see some kind of knockout. Must have been that one, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it could have potentially been that one, but yeah, I
Mm,
did see that Lorani is in the hospital still, and I'd imagine more updates will be coming as time goes on. So definitely gonna try and stay on tabs with that there, Mister Paz. But I haven't seen the fight and all of the stuff that was tied to it, so I'll see what's up in that regard. Then Mister Paz mentions also, thank God Billum Smith beat a
mhm.
Coley. LOL, 3 knockdowns and 2 point deductions there for a Coley. Yet a judge scored it a draw. LOL. Finally, a
Yeah.
ref that takes points away for excessive clinching. Now, this is another fight that I didn't see, but I just saw some highlights from the fight a little bit earlier. And it seems like that, I was actually looking to try and watch that fight yesterday, but I wasn't able to find a way to watch it and I didn't catch it. But it seems that every time I want to watch a Nicole fight and I miss it, Nicole puts up a stinker, which looks to
Yeah.
have been the case with this one as well. I don't know, Boz, were you able to catch that fight
I
or
caught some
net?
of it. I was like late also coming to that in 6 rounds. I in the 6th round I came to opponent and yeah, it was I because I heard that Okoli had been down, from a buddy of mine who was watching it. So yeah, that fight was again a rather a typical Okoli fight, but just as I switched back, because I wanted to concentrate on Lara versus Wood. I hear that Okoye has been down in round 10 and then in the 11th, of course, also. So I agree. I say thank God Okoye is not a champion anymore. And I mean, he not only was he boring and all that, so frustrating to watch, but
Yeah.
he didn't fight, all the best guys. I mean, that he could have, like Richard Riakporhe, I have already talked about several times.
Oh yeah.
Instead he chose to fight guys like David Light and Mikhail Cheslak and you know nobody's pretty
Yeah.
much.
In ugly fights at that. Now
Yeah,
yeah, this is for WBO World Cruiserweight Championship, one that Okolie has had for I guess 2 years now. And of
yeah,
course, it seems like ever since he won that title, he's just looked pretty much bad and almost regressed in each fight. And in this one, with the highlights that I saw, it just looked like he was stumbling and bumbling all over the ring and trying to grab
yeah,
and nearly tackling Chris Billum Smith on several occasions. And
yeah.
yeah, he's just an interesting. He's at an interesting phase at this point. I don't know what's going on with the Coley.
I don't know, maybe because he wants probably is planning a move to the heavyweight. So I don't know what's going on, but yeah, I mean, since he won the title, he looked good, of course, against Glovatsky, even though that Glovatsky was also past his best.
Yeah,
But after that, also had one easy defense against the guy from Montenegro, and then the chess lock fight, which was ugly, and then
yeah,
also even uglier David Light fight. Oh man, and now he
yeah.
loses. So
Yeah, that was the last fight of Achilles I caught live was against Just Like, which was, as you mentioned, a very ugly clinch fest that was going on. And it seemed
yeah,
like Achilles been looking to get that back in the mix. Still promising at one point, so he's going to be in an interesting place. Maybe the
yeah,
move to heavyweights comes sooner rather than later. And just like that, he's went from one of the top cruiserweights in the world to a guy with a big question mark next to his name now. As for Chris Billum Smith, I've liked Chris Billum Smith. What I've seen from him, he's seemingly gotten better, especially since his first loss and all. But coming into this contest, I thought that Okoli would defeat him because I felt that given the history that the two had, Okoli may have had his number, but I guess you could say it turned out to be the other way around. Chris Billum Smith had Okoli's number. But for
yeah.
Chris Billum Smith, he throws his name right there in the hat as one of the top guys at cruiserweight. He has a title to back it now, and he too does make it somewhat interesting with some of the guys we want to see him with. And as you mentioned,
Hmm.
Richard Reactpour, that could be a potential fight.
And he is the guy who beat him, the only one so far actually
Oh
still
yeah,
beat.
yeah, yeah. That is right. That is the
Yeah.
one who gave him that loss. So it seems only fitting they're destined to clash again, and this time with
Yeah.
a title on the line, right? So
Oh
that
yeah.
may be what's on tap.
Yeah, I mean, Reactpor is definitely ready for a fight like a title fight. Also, he's been very impressive, so far. So yeah, I think he will probably beat Willem Smith again because from what I've seen, he's actually faster. Maybe he doesn't have doesn't quite have, I don't know, maybe the same kind of power as Okoli, but he lands more punches per round. That's what's more important. He actually lands many punches, and not like Okoli. He when he lands good, he may knock you out or put you down, but he lands that kind of punch maybe once in a fight in the whole 12
Yeah,
rounds.
yeah.
So
Interesting. Yeah, you're right. So I'm looking at the cruiserweight ratings and Billum Smith, the ring ratings is what I'm looking at. He was rated number 10, while Okoli was number one, of course, behind champion Opataya, who's the ring champion, of course, and the IDF champion, who looked good.
oh
He
yeah.
fought Bradis, who is coming back from a broken jaw. And I don't, as a matter of fact, let me look real quick because I feel like there is nothing on tap at the moment for him. I see some headlines out there. Uh,
Yeah, like Fury wants to fight Petaya
I
now.
see that. That is crazy. Like, why is that
Man,
even happening? That doesn't even seem like it makes any sense.
and
But I forget I did. I
Petaya,
forget I did. I forget I saw that actually. But
yeah,
Opataya is a cruiserweight who seemingly should be fighting at cruiserweight and moving
mm,
up to face Tyson Fury at heavyweight would I think
yeah,
not be a good move for him considering that he's coming off of a broken jaw and he's a
no
cruiserweight
way,
who
man,
is
no, he's
establishing
too
himself at
small.
cruiserweight. You
Yeah,
know,
he's not like Okoli, all right. You can say he's 6'5" or Yakpur, a big cruiser, but Petaya is 6'2", so he's not a really big cruiser by today's
right,
standards or any
right.
standards.
And since
he's
we're on the subject, yeah, what is going on with Tyson Fury? He goes from fighting this one guy I hadn't, this Australian fighter I hadn't heard of, to saying that, oh
yeah.
no, I'm about to fight Anthony Joshua. Now I see his name thrown out there with Opataya, which makes no sense. What the heck is going on with Tyson Fury?
Seems like I mean, his management are really doing their job, of course, very well. And he also maybe, I don't know, maybe he's only just trolling us, because he's bored. So he says, okay, who shall I say that I want to fight today? Like, oh, Petaya, all right, let's say.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Maybe this is trolling. He's doing a heck of a troll job on us for sure.
Yeah. He's a master troll, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, that is crazy. But so yeah, we'll see what happens. So Opataya is the ring champion at cruiserweight. So you think about him being in the mix there. Of course, Badu Jack just picked up the title by knocking out long reigning Makabu. So he
Oh
has the
yeah,
WBC title. British is
Badu.
still highly rated as well as Uniel Dorticos. So a
Yeah,
lot of interesting
Badu.
stuff. I think that Breedis would make it very interesting for Chris Billum Smith, and I don't know if it's a given for
Yeah,
Billum Smith over Breedis. I'd actually probably favor Breedis.
I mean Badu Jack versus British would make more sense
Oh
because
yeah,
both are kind of equal in age almost and
that
are
is true. That
on
is
their
true.
way out. You might say. And yeah, so now that Badu holds the WBC belt, which is not, of course, a small belt, to put it
Yeah,
that
yeah,
way,
right.
I think that fight makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I would like to see British fight someone also, like, I don't know, maybe rematch of Petaya or yeah. Uh,
Yeah, so yeah, that seems to make the most sense then, especially if Badu Jack and Breedis were to get it on. So we'll
yeah.
see. Then there's some other interesting names in the mix there as well, but hey,
Mm,
Cruiserweight has always had some talent there. It's always been fairly promising. So I think now with CBS winning this belt, he just adds to the mix. So it should be a good thing.
mhm,
Now, Mr. Pads mentions great performance from Catterall as well and wow, 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 great knockout from Rocha, but especially Lopez. Great
mm,
knockouts for both Rocha, but especially
yeah.
Lopez. Gorgeous uppercut. On a side note, Anthony Crowler's brother fought and didn't look good.
Oh
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I did
Oh,
see that. Well, I
no,
wasn't paying full attention to his brother's fight, but
I only
um,
saw that he was gonna fight, but I didn't see that either. I missed that.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was on. I don't even remember anything. I wasn't truly paying attention to it, but I know he was fighting, and I heard
Oh
them
yeah,
they were mentioning it.
and
So
Campbell Hatton, he won. He stopped some nobody.
yeah, I caught that. I caught that with Campbell. Yeah, it was a good little stoppage that he ended up getting. Had the guy on shaky leg and stumbling and bumbling, but certainly Hatton. They're continuing to try and keep him busy.
Yeah,
And
he's
I guess you could say he's improving somewhat, becoming more and more confident in there. So we'll see how the competition continues to rise as it goes
yeah,
on. Now, I
he's
missed the Catterall fight, but of course, I
oh
like
yeah,
Pat Catterall, and he's a very talented fighter. And
but dirty as well, I would say.
Dirty, all right,
Yeah,
yeah, I know.
last night I watched that fight also, Catterall versus
Okay,
Foley.
what did you
He
think?
did kind of had. I mean, he was of course very dominant and all. He put the guy down twice, but he also landed quite a many like low blows and stuff like that. I mean, he was warned. He didn't get a point deduction, but he was warned a few times. So I mean, yeah, it was. I mean, Derek Foley is not some kind of world class opponent, but it was a good win. I mean, a good way to get back, in action before
Yeah,
a big fight comes along, a bigger one anyway.
yeah, he's a name at 140, so he's at 140 pounds. We know he gave
Yeah,
Josh Taylor, the former, I guess you can say, undisputed champion at 140 pounds, a run for his money. And many people thought he beat Josh Taylor in actuality. So that makes it very interesting as far as the prospects for Catterall, but he is certainly a good name to have there in the mix. And hopefully we see him in there with another big name at 140. Hey, it seems to lining up. It seems to be stacking up well as far as competition. And,
yeah,
and thinking about that, I know Ryan Garcia has said that he wants to take on Rolly Romero, so we could get that fight. And I favor Ryan, even though Rolly Romero he looked bad in his last fight. That being said, Jack Catterall, he's a name that is in the mix, and Regis Prograis is now with Matchroom Boxing. He's going to be fighting on June, I believe, 17th. So potential for a Jack Catterall Regis Prograis fight may be something that's also available down the road, which I think is a very good one, a very good fight right there.
yeah. Very very intriguing matchup. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, of course, to see it will be interesting to see if Prograis can like do better against Carroll and his tricky style,
Yeah,
than Taylor did, So if he
yeah,
does, then yeah, it will be a sign that he is ready for
Yeah, that would
a
bode well
rematch.
for him. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. That will bode well for him. So Josh
yeah,
Taylor versus Teofimo Lopez, which is going to be happening not too long from now. So that's going to have a lot of
oh, yeah.
implications right there, especially for the winner and their trajectory from there forward. But even with the loser, there's still a name that is there in the mix who could definitely shake up some things. And also, I saw that Matchroom re-signed, or I don't know if he was signed previously, but basically George Kambosos, the Australian lightweight. So I don't know if he's going to continue at 135 or if he's going to go to 140. But if he goes to 140, that's another name in the mix there that can be added to contention level potential fight matchup. So maybe that happens. So I like to see him there in the mix as well.
Yeah, on my damn screen. Yeah, why not? I mean, he is always. I mean, he brings a good fight for sure. If nothing, yeah, he likes
Yeah,
to come and slug it
yeah,
out.
yeah, good to go. But yeah, so and Mr. Paz also mentioned Alexis Rocha. So for Alexis
Yeah,
Rocha, heck of a performance. He took out Anthony Young last night, and Young he chose to employ what I thought was not a good tactic as far as trying to fight near the ropes, near and off the ropes. And Alex
well,
Rocha was basically teeing off on him before ultimately stopping him in the, I believe it was the fifth round. And
that's not a good tactic,
yeah,
definitely.
not a good tactic at all. And he can move fairly well when he's out there boxing and moving, but he did not fight in the middle of the ring. He was on the ropes, but maybe that's because almost immediately after the round started, after the round first started, they actually, or I would say Young was caught with a big left from Alexis Rocha, and that kind of sent him stumbling back in more than a defensive posture. Now he had moments
Yeah.
where he was throwing some offense, but it just didn't matter much because Alexis Rocha was just all over him until the fight ultimately was ended. And I thought it was a good stoppage. Young was he was game, but he was just taking damage, and you could tell he was on wobbly legs after that last huge shot that he had taken. And this just makes Alex Rocha, it just kind of builds into what we see as a great young fighter who is maturing and developing. The only blemish on his record being Rashidi Ellis, Speedy Rashidi, and we know he's very good and technical, and he is one of the top guys there at 147, at least right there on the back end of the top 10 type level, top 10, top 15 ish. But that being said, Alex Rocha, he's the mandatory for the WBO World Welterweight title, which is held by Terrence Crawford. And
Wow.
now he said that he wants to wait and fight the winner of Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence. Now there was mentioned that there is a rematch clause as well that is tied to that potential matchup, so he could be waiting for a while. Now I guess we'll really see what he's going to do once this once this matchup actually happens and what is decided. He said he's going to speak with his team, but that being said, I like Alex Rocha. I think, man, he's looked good. Yeah, he'll make it interesting. I wouldn't mind seeing him either with the winner of Stanionis versus Virgil Ortiz as well. I think those are good ones. Or just think about a potential Alexis Rocha versus Jerron Boots Ennis. That would be a good fight as well, if you
Oh
ask
yeah.
me. So I'm down for whatever can be made for him at 147 against one of those top guys, or if he feels he's at that level, which he seemingly does. Just think about like Yordenis Ugas, who's out there and he hasn't fought since that Spence fight. That could be a potential one that I would find to be very interesting to see how he deals with a guy like Ugas. What do you think?
All right. Yeah. This thing. Oh yeah. I really want to see that fight. I didn't see, of course, the Rocha knockout last night. But yeah, I mean, from what I've seen on his record, he looks like a really good contender, really dangerous challenger for Crawford or anybody else, pretty much out there at the
Yeah,
moment. Think I'm
yeah,
gonna
and
change this because it's messing up. This background is messing up. All right.
Yeah,
Uh,
that brick is not
Rick,
popping,
yeah,
but cool.
yeah, Rocha versus who? Oh yeah, Jaron Ennis. That would be a great fight right now.
Yeah,
Probably best for him before he takes on eventually someone like Crawford, if he wins, of course. So
that's a good one for both of them, because
yeah,
Jaron Ennis
yeah,
had a lot of momentum, but of course, when he took on the fighter from I forget what country it was, his first name was Karen. I think he might have been like Kazakh or
Armenian,
something like that, and it
maybe
was
maybe Armenian or something.
Armenian or yeah, something of that nature.
Sounds
But
like yeah, yeah, sounds
it
like
was
an
on the
Armenian.
undercard of Tank Davis. It was the co-main event for Davis versus Hector Garcia. But Jaron Ennis, this was his big debut on that pay-per-view level at in a co-main event, but
Oh
he
yeah,
wasn't able to truly catch
shine.
that guy that much, and
Yeah, he wasn't able to shine on his big
wasn't able to
debut.
shine. And I think that ultimately made people think, okay, you know what? Maybe he's not just ready for Terrence Crawford. And I didn't think certainly he was ready for Terrence Crawford or Errol Spence after that one. But if
Yeah.
he could take out a guy like Rocha, I think that's gonna make people,
Oh,
that's gonna open some eyes a bit more at least.
oh yeah, of course. Yeah, no doubt. Of course, sometimes it's only just about him being maybe too nervous and just not having a good night. But sometimes it's a sign that maybe he's not as great as people thought at first. But we'll see anyway. Of course,
Yeah,
the
yeah, we
Rocha
will.
fight will expose that.
Yeah, we will see. We will see for sure. And speaking of that, Mr. Pat says Josh and Boz, the best news, however, is Crawford versus Spence being confirmed with it having some stipulations such as a rematch and stuff like that. I know Josh has wanted this fight forever. Without a doubt, we finally get the best fight in boxing. Now, it should have happened, of course, by now, and we should be on the trilogy, I guess you could say. But that being said, we're going to get it. It's going down July 29th in Las Vegas. It might be T-Mobile
Hmm.
Arena. I can't remember exactly though, but it's going down. So Terrence Crawford has the WBO World Welterweight title, and then I know that Errol Spence has the potentially the IBF and WBC, something like that. Let me double check. But anyway, this is the best fight that can be made in boxing as far as two legitimate top five depending on how you rate them. Some would say top three, some would say top two pound for pound fighters in the same weight class, and they're going to be battling it out with each other. So, yeah, Spence Jr. has the IBF, WBA, and WBC. Terrence Crawford has the WBO. The ring title is vacant, so I'd imagine the winner is going to become ring champion as well. So we are going to finally get this fight. The boxing world has been clamoring for it. I already seen that the floor tickets are starting to get up there as far as pricing is concerned, and I can only imagine by fight night that they're going to be at some ridiculous number. So what are your thoughts on finally getting this welterweight class that has the makings of an all timer?
Well, what can they be but just a wow? Let's hope that nobody spoils that fight. Nothing stops it from happening. Of course. Yeah. As for who would win it, I see Rodolfo, my man, is asking us
Oh,
who
we
would
got
win
salute.
this fight. Well, yeah, that's a tough one, but of course, I gotta lean slightly more towards Crawford because of what he has shown us so far, and his slickness and all that.
Yeah,
Yeah, the way he can change from an orthodox stance to southpaw. That's not something many can do actually. So yeah,
yeah, it's
I
gonna make it
think
interesting. It's gonna make it
yeah.
interesting. Real quick before I jump into my thoughts, let me go ahead and do these shout outs. So Melissa Tide, nice to see Bowsen 86 back at it. Salute, Melissa. Appreciate you being here in the mix. Salute to Rodolfo Rivera Jr. in the building, holding it down. I see you, Rodolfo, doing your thing. Shout out to Bruce Gas, Boxing Jazz, and more. Salute, Bruce. Be sure to check out Bruce. Subscribe to Bruce. A lot of great content over there. A lot of great interviews going down. Bruce Gas, very entertaining. He's doing his thing over there and definitely representing Shout out to my man Skywalker Boxing, TWT, the winning team over there. Says salute to you, Skywalker. Appreciate you being in here, brother. Hey, it's a good thing. Good seeing you. Great stream last night. Hey, check out Skywalker. Go subscribe to Skywalker Boxing. He always has some great stuff going on over there. If you want to see the fights, especially the ones that you can't really find, if you know what I mean, then check out Skywalker Boxing. He holds it down pretty much every weekend. He's got it jumping off. So appreciate you dropping by here, Skywalker, without a doubt. So yeah, we were talking the Crawford versus Spence fight, Spence Crawford, however you lay it out, but the two top welterweights going at it, as Mr. Paz mentions here, historic fight, first two-time four-belt era undisputed. If Bud wins, fight fights four belt era first four belt era welterweight undisputed for whom wins. Try to say that three times twice. Four belt era. You know, interesting. But yes, this is historic in that sense. Great thing to point out there, Mr. Pat. So yes, the winner will be undisputed at 147 pounds, and as mentioned, as alluded to by Mr. Paz, we know that Terrence Crawford was already undisputed at 140 pounds, so this will be the first two belt era undisputed or four belt era undisputed champion, twice undisputed champion. You know, if he were to win this contest, which, hey, a lot of people are favoring him to win, just as there are a lot of people favoring Spitz. For me, you know, I've been saying for a while that I feel that Terrence Crawford has a little bit more in the tool shed by comparison to Spence, and therefore I think his adaptability would play in his favor. And I think that when it gets down to the trenches, then he's going to be able to pull off something because he has a mean streak in him. Not that Spence does it, because Spence has shown that he has that side of him as well. But I just think that there's more in the arsenal of Terrence Crawford, and he has this chip on his shoulder, this never back down type attitude that I think is going to make him turn it up even in the toughest of moments. But this is really a great fight. It's really a 50-50 pick'em fight. Errol Spence does so many great things well, as and you think about how he works the body. It'll be interesting to see how Terrence Crawford handles that if he starts to get tagged up and tapped into the body by Errol Spence, which we know Spence does do great work to the body. And that's just going to make it very interesting. So this is a marquee 50-50 top flight matchup. And you can't go wrong either way as far as picks. And I think that the odds are going to continue to get closer and closer by the time we get to actual fight night. But Terrence Crawford, I will say, one of the separators is that he just carries himself in totality as a fighter. Like, he is 100% dedicated to it. He doesn't drink or do any of that stuff. He is a through and through fighter in that sense. And we know that Errol Spence has had his moments. He's had his fair share of parties or whatever you want to call it, but he always comes ready to go in terms of being in shape and all of that stuff. But Terrence Crawford, hey, they're both. It's just an excellent matchup. And you think about who they're working with. I know that Crawford does a lot of work with Shakur Stevenson, so you got to think that that adds to the mix some of the guys that he's working with. And, of course, Spence is doing probably a lot of work with Jamal Charlo, and he has done over the years. So from the camps to just everything about each fighter, it just makes for an excellent matchup. And I'm happy that we are finally going to get this July 29th. It's going down in Las Vegas, baby. We finally get
Can't
the fight.
believe it. Can't believe it. Yeah, I remember something funny, from Crawford's past. I think when he first won the 140-pound title, that was also, I think, WBO
Yeah.
against Thierry Jean. You remember that guy?
Oh, yeah. I remember Jean.
So that his trainer was like very very arrogant, and he was saying before a fight he guarantees that Sean will knock out Crawford. Think just imagine saying something like that. And then after Crawford stopped John, I remember in the 10th round, he looked at the trainer and said, "Did you get what you came here for?" And the trainer
Cool.
was just like,
Yeah,
I had
yeah.
nothing to say.
No holds barred. That's the way Crawford is. And I remember Crawford, didn't he go over to the UK to defeat Ricky Burns? Am I mistaken in that?
Yeah, that was his first title, the
That
lightweight
and he went
when
over there, right?
yeah, yeah, he won. He went to Scotland, to Glasgow. Or,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Cool, cool, good stuff. So yeah, Crawford, yeah, he traveled to get his first opportunity. You know, he didn't have that same fanfare as say Spence, who was a
yeah,
part of the Olympic team at least in 2012, and ultimately, uh, I believe he went on to the Olympics too, right? He didn't win. No, in that 2012 Olympic team, they had a lot of great fighters. I know Sean Porter was a part of the team. Uh, I don't know if he went over to the Olympics though, but as far
yeah,
as thinking about the trials and the overall team, Porter was a part of that. There are a lot of good fighters who were part of that. Only person that ended up medaling was Clarissa Shields, and I think this is when she won her first gold medal. It might have been her first one, 2012, and then I think, or it could have been her. No, no, yeah, it was her first one because she won it again in 2016, I believe, because she turned pro shortly thereafter. So,
hmm,
so yeah, but yeah, Errol Spence, of course, he was, of course, a big time amateur, and he had the fanfare for Terrence Crawford. He was there and in the mix, of course, but he didn't have that same promise as, for instance, Errol Spence or maybe some others. And he grinded his way there. He grinded
yeah,
his way through the pro ranks, and look at him now. You know?
yeah. I remember when he was gonna fight Burns. I was like, "Who's this guy?" I never heard of him before. But then I saw the fight he won. He was very impressive.
Oh
And I
yeah,
was like, "Holy crap, this guy is good." Yeah,
yeah,
like
yeah.
where did
He
he
is.
come from?
Yeah, so you know we're gonna have more and more discussions on this as time goes on because this is the fight everyone's been clamoring for. Hey,
Yeah,
2023 has been the year. We're getting some so we were getting some undisputed fights in 2022. Now they're carrying over to 2023.
yeah,
We
yeah.
did
We had
have
like,
Chantel Cameron versus Katie Taylor recently was the battle of two
yeah,
undisputed champions. So yeah, this just adds to the mix. We've got to
that
this is the
was
stuff that boxing needs.
yeah, that was also a good fight. Chantel Cameron versus
Yeah.
Katie Taylor. I mean, yeah, Chantel won, of course, gave Katie her first loss.
Yep. Yep.
That
We didn't
was
get to talk about that, but yeah, I thought that was a great fight. Chantel Cameron,
yeah,
she didn't back down in there, and she was playing what I would call a bully ball. She wasn't backing down. She was coming forward. She was taking what Katie had to offer and pushing Katie back as well. So
yeah,
for Katie moving up to 140, I thought it would not be much of a difference from her, but Chantel Cameron seemingly was a bit stronger and a little bit bigger. Of course, having fought at 140 and being the undisputed titleist or champion there, and Katie Taylor wasn't able to have her way with Cameron, who had a mentality that I guess she wasn't backing down through the entirety. And Katie Taylor did have some moments, but I definitely thought that Chantel Cameron got the victory in that contest,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's good that the judges got it right.
I think I had, I don't remember, 7 rounds to three or something like. Yeah, I think so. I didn't think Taylor really won that many rounds. She did have some good she had some success counter punching, but she didn't do enough. Simple as that. She just focused on counter punching. So
Yeah,
mm,
yeah. That is right, and I think that yeah, Cameron took advantage of that, and offensively, she showed that she has some tools in the tool shed, and she
yeah,
can up the pace when needed. And if she's hit, she doesn't clinch. She actually fights fire with fire, so she has a feistiness to her. And
yeah,
she's the woman there at 140 pounds until someone can come in and dethrone her. And who that will be is still a question. So I wonder where they go from there as far as maybe Katie Taylor. Of course, she can go back down to 135. This was intended to be Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano, but unfortunately, Serrano got hurt. Serrano was going to be
yeah,
fighting, I believe, on the undercard of this Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz pay per view. So therefore, the prospect of Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano, I guess, could potentially happen sometime later in the year. Potentially
Yeah,
later in the year. Maybe they'll do it in Belfast again, which they had a lot of fanfare out there, great turnout, and I know Eddie mentioned that they wanted to bring more fights there. So we'll see. But that could be a
yeah.
good one in terms of a rebound, bounce back fight for Katie Taylor. It'll be a tough one, of course, but a good rebound, bounce back fight because she can't really go down from here, even though she took a loss right there in that quest for the two fighting at 140. But she can't really go back or go down from here, realistically. So maybe that is what's next. And
Yeah, yeah.
Rodolfo Rivera Jr. Says, I didn't see any of these weekend fights, but I heard Smith sent Okoli to the canvas multiple times. The one time I didn't watch the Okoli fight, it turns out to be entertaining. Yeah, but I heard that Okoli didn't look too entertaining in the contest in itself, so it may just been the entertainment value being the knockdowns there, Rodolfo. But from what I saw, yeah, Okoli was trying his best to clinch and do a bunch of grabbing and holding throughout the
Yeah.
contest.
It wasn't too entertaining, I can assure you.
So there it is. Boz says it wasn't too entertaining there, Rodolfo. Be careful what you wish for. Mr. Pat says Okoli is one of the least trainable fighters I've ever seen. LL doesn't matter who trains him, it's always the same performance. Yeah, that seems to be the case. It's just like he's trying to pull out stinker after stinker. I don't know what to do. They've matched him with many different styles of
Stinker.
opponents, I guess you can say, here over the last several fights, but we still get that same Okoli who yeah, he can't help but stink up the joint. I don't know what it is. I thought he was fairly a bit more entertaining when he was coming up a bit, but now that
Yeah.
he's reached that top level, man, he does put on some pretty valid stinkers, So I understand where people are coming from without a doubt.
Yeah, whenever he can't knock out the guy, he really stinks it up. That's simple, as simple as that.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Mr. Pat says Okola said there's a rematch clause and he'll activate it. I bet. I bet he will. that
Oh
dang
no.
Okola.
Oh no.
So we're gonna get Okolie versus Chris Billum Smith too.
Two. Oh
Be on the
man.
lookout, folks. Be on the lookout. Let me see what's gonna. Oh yeah, Rodolfo. Yeah, Dempsey McKean. Yeah, that's the guy that I guess Fury was gonna be fighting last week at least.
Who?
Last week before and in between last week and now, it's going from Dempsey McKean to Anthony Joshua to Jay Opathia. Apparently, who will it be tomorrow? We might as well throw our name in the hat. Let's take a bet. Who will Fury say he's going to fight next? Let me see. I'm
Hey,
gonna throw somebody out there. Some weird thing. Maybe he's gonna get Oscar Rivas out of retirement.
yeah.
What do you think, Oscar Rivas? Uh, Rodolfo Rivera Jr. says, "Who's winning the fight?" By Spencer Crawford. I know he provided his input.
Yeah.
He thinks it's gonna be Terrence Bud Crawford. Terrence Bud Crawford, and that's who I'm rolling with as well. But of course, we know Spence is a live dog and he can make it happen. So it really is. It's truly 50-50 without a doubt. Rodolfo Rivera Jr. says, I might go to the fight with my friends, but it depends on the ticket prices. Yeah, the ticket prices are going to be crazy, Rodolfo. I can tell you that right now. I can tell you that right now. Even those that are in the top of the rafters, I guess you could say, they are going to be ridiculous because this is going to be one of those fights that, while not on this exact same level, it's going to have that type of Mayweather Pacquiao feel, but it's not going to reach those heights, of course, financially, just because of the dynamic surrounding that, where we had a great Filipino fighter against a great American fighter and all of the fanfare globally that came along with that. But this is going to be a big fight, regardless. It's going to be a big fight. It might be the biggest of the year. What is the biggest of the year, at least on paper? But it might be the biggest of the year as far as pay-per-view sales, I would suppose, as well. I think this is one that people are actually going to go out and purchase because we've been looking for it for so long. So I think it's going to turn out to be the event of the year, the marquee event, unless, of course, we get that mega card in Saudi Arabia that they were talking, where they were going to have Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk, along with Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua in Saudi
No way.
Arabia. But maybe those talks have faded away as quick as they came as well.
Maybe, but I wouldn't hold my breath for that.
Yeah, right. It's interesting. Rodolfo, my friend, bought tickets row 8 through 10 somewhere. He said 1750. That's $1,750. In front row was apparently 7K. And a guy I spoke to said he's willing to spend $700 on a ticket. Yeah, it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy. I saw something last night where one of the floor tickets was about 9,000 and something dollars, and this was just one, so I don't even know what section it was in, but it was on the floor apparently. So I can only imagine what the front row is going to be. Those are going to be the ones that are probably going to be some insane amount, insane amount. So yeah, Rodolfo, yeah, they may not even have standing room only tickets that are reasonable. Rodolfo says she's on sale already. Thanks for letting me know, Mr. Pat. Yeah, it gets pretty crazy. It gets pretty crazy. And Rodolfo said he's told his friend he was going to be on the lookout for tickets. Maybe that's what it ends up being. Lookout right there, Rodolfo. The lookout. Key in on the lookout. The lowest prices are 700. Wow, that's for those nosebleeds, what we like to call them. Beagle, shout out Beagle 47. Appreciate you coming in, buddy. He says nothing here to sell. Tuned in during my drive time. Spotlight thought picking Bud. Good to go, Beagle. Hey, yeah, everyone let us know. Are you going with Bud? Are you going with Spence? This is going to be a lot of clamor, a lot of talk, and there's going to be a lot of craziness as well. Some people are going to be throwing out some crazy topics and all of that stuff. It's gonna be interesting. Skywalker Balka says yes, body and eyeballs, Spence specialty. So that's the thing. Yeah, Errol Spence, man, that body work he does, it can damage the guy. The way he handled, and I think Errol Spence, the way he handled Yordenis Ugas, who came in as someone we thought that was going to give him a legitimate challenge, but Spence said no, scratch that. I'm just going to show you the level that I'm on, and he pretty much dominated Yordenis Ugas, and sent them caroling back down the rankings because Spence was not to be denied in that particular contest. And hopefully we get that version of Spence versus, the best version of Crawford. And it seems that we will, because neither have fought since, so Spence hasn't fought since that Ugas fight. And Crawford, of course, he last fought David Avanesian. I can't even remember when that was now. I think that was last year, as a matter of fact. So they should be fresh as far as that recent wear and tear. They should be pretty fresh as it relates to that. So they're ready for each other. They're going to be training for each other, ready to go. Nothing thrown in the mix in between. So it's going to be good. It's going to be a good one. Skywalker says respect to both for making this fight happen. Without a doubt, we didn't think we would get it, but we finally got it. Got to give these guys some respect in that regard for a good. For sure, that is a good thing right there. That's good for the sport. So the sport of boxing wins with this being made. That shows we can get it done. We can get it done, and people are going to be tuning in. Alan, salute, Alan. Appreciate you dropping in, buddy. It has been a good while. Glad to have you in the mix. Alan says, "Hey, I've been locked out of YouTube for a few months, so I've missed your channel." Shout out to my hometown hero, CBS, Chris Billum-Smith. I was there last night and got to meet a lot of them at the public weigh-in. Oh, awesome, Alan. That's good stuff. Welcome back, Alan. Yeah, glad to see that you're back up and running. Appreciate you dropping by. Of course, we love the dialogue. Yeah, we were talking about CBS, Chris Billum-Smith coming through, picking up that WBO title. As mentioned, Ring has him rated as the number 10 cruiserweight in the world at the moment. So that's good billing as far as him being able to go in and defeat Lawrence Okolie. And as I was stating up top, Alan, I actually thought Okolie would have his number, and I was wrong. Chris Billum-Smith had Okolie's number, and I got to commend Chris Billum-Smith because he's just continued to get better and better, and he's rising to the occasion. So it can only be continually up from here. So he'll make for some very good and very interesting matchups here moving forward. So salute to Chris Billum-Smith, aka CBS, the broadcast. Let's go, baby. Mr. Pat, Alan, must have been cool to watch it at Vitality Stadium. Bournemouth fans must be proud to get such an event at their stadium. Okay, I'm familiar with that team from playing FIFA, of course. I
Yeah,
don't know any players right now, but I'm familiar with them.
yeah. I was kind of surprised to see that it was held there, and that I know. Yeah, I really pictured Bournemouth as a boxing town
No,
before.
yeah. Hey,
Yeah,
hey, surprising it turned out. Remember,
yeah,
Muhammad Ali versus Sonny Liston 2 was in Maine. I forget which part of
yeah,
Maine, the
yeah.
state of
Kind of
Maine.
weird.
Definitely don't associate them with boxing, but that being said, hey, if they had to go, they can make it happen.
Yeah, sure.
uh, Beagle
Says
says Boz dropping that
bees.
geography knowledge. Boz like, hey, Mr. Biz, I'm not a businessman, I'm a business man. Allen says Crawford versus Spence has been a long time coming. I did rate Crawford as my pound for pound number one, but he hasn't been busy enough lately to be in those conversations. Excuse me. Yeah, it always gets tricky when you start to factor in that activity piece of it. Definitely. I mean, yeah, he's certainly up there, but yeah, the guys sometimes fight at less pace than what we are accustomed to in the past. I think we were talking about this a few weeks ago. That twice a year seems to be the average, I guess, for any fighter. Then you'll have some who do it 3 times a year, and if you get a top level fighter that's fighting 4 times a year, then that's really doing something. You're really putting yourself out there in a major way. But we rarely see that. Canelo has done it in the past, of course, but this year is going to be one of those Canelo years, for instance, where he's only going to fight twice from the looks of it, because he did just announce that he will be back in September, as we expect. He's usually May, or somewhere generally around May, September. So Cinco de Mayo and then Mexican Independence.
Mm,
So I think we're all pretty much expecting that. But yeah, we get those 2 time a years. But yeah, in this case, this is a good one, Alan, that we finally got this one. And I'm sure that whoever wins is going to shoot to number one on the pound for pound rankings. It just seems to have the makings of such. Just given where we are right now, I think they're going to shoot to number one on the pound for pound rankings. And if you think
mm,
about who is in or around there, I think it kind of makes sense, because you have the likes of Canelo, Naoya Inoue, who is going to be taking on Stephen Fulton. So that's going to be a very interesting one right there as well. I slightly favor Inoue, but that being said, I see Stephen Fulton is the real deal, and he's going to really challenge Inoue. But it's going to be over in Japan, so he's going to be going to enemy
mm.
territory per se. But he's up there. Alexander Usyk. If Usyk is not going to be able to get the Tyson Fury fight, which of course that seems like that ship has sailed, at least for the time being, then I mean I think that Spence Crawford winner will overtake whoever, depending on where you have Usyk sitting in the mix. Him, in a way, Canelo. Then the two of them are generally regarded as top five. So yeah, I think the winner will be number one pound for pound in the sport, which is going to be a good thing, and it will be undisputed at 147 pounds. So very interesting, very interesting.
Yep.
Alan says there's an entertaining atmosphere there at Bournemouth. That's good stuff. Hey, UK always has great fight atmospheres. Some of the best, really, when you think about it. And salute on TikTok. I see here it says I am Jay. I am Soldier Kern's great grandson. Salute to you, I am Jay. That's good stuff right there. Soldier Kern's great fighter from back in the day. Yeah, salute to you, man. We love the history of the sport. Of course, we always talk history. Be sure to check out the YouTube right there with Soldier Kearns. There's a video out there. I have a little short video on him. It's really a shorts, just kind of speaking to him for a little bit. But that's good stuff. I am Jay. Appreciate you without a doubt. Alan said, yeah, it was an ugly fight, but it had some knockdowns and point seductions. CBS the first to knock him down. Okoli might retire. He seems to be more interested in business since he moved to Dubai. I didn't know he moved to Dubai, but that's very interesting. That is very interesting. But yeah, Coley, yeah, he's definitely in an interesting place for sure. He is in an interesting place, I would say. I would say. Uh, Rodolfo Rivera says that Fury's gonna call out Muhammad Char. Why not? Why not? Throw him in that mix. He's just as deserving as someone else who's never fought at heavyweight. But
Yeah,
Muhammad Char has been a minute, but go
I
ahead.
mean the guy fought Vitaly Klitschko for crying out loud.
I know,
That's
right, right. Who's now in the Boxing Hall of Fame, which means you have to wait 5 years to after you're actually retired, so that
yeah,
tells you everything about him.
yeah. That
So,
was some time ago.
yeah, Alan said CBS and team want Camelot next. I spent 200 pounds for front row ringside for CBS just outside of the press seat. Awesome, awesome. That's good stuff, Alan. That's pretty good deal right there for a WBO World Cruiserweight title fight right there. That's good stuff, without a doubt. Camelot. Do you know Camelot,
Camelot.
Boz? I don't know if I know Camelot.
I think he said Canelo. Not he meant Canelo, but he wrote Camelot. Maybe it
Oh,
was
okay.
his autocorrect. Maybe yeah, probably.
I was gonna say, is there a Camelot out there?
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
It was
Canelo. Okay, got you. I see Alan Camelot.
the place where King Arthur lived, according
I
to the
got you.
myth.
I see you there, Alan. Yeah, Canelo. So did CBS call out Canelo? Did he actually call him out? That's funny. Everybody wants Canelo, Everybody wants a piece of that
Yeah,
pie.
I don't
But
think they should. I
Canelo,
don't
hey,
think.
he's got some fish to fry at 175 pounds before he can move up to the cruiserweight ranks
I
for
don't think.
sure.
Forget about. I think he should forget about cruiserweight.
And
He just.
Makabu no longer has the belt, so
Yeah.
there
I
goes
mean,
that
he
opportunity.
was. Yeah, he was like the easiest path to another world title belt at another
Yeah,
weight
without a doubt.
class.
Alan says going for Crawford. Rodolfo Rivera Jr. says, yes, CBS should shoot up to the top three contender spot once Ring updates their ranking. Yep, he is world champion now. Big shout outs to him. So his name is there in the bigs. Now, Chris Billon Smith versus Opataya, that is the fight that should happen as opposed to Opataya Fury, as Bob was
Yeah,
mentioning. Yeah,
why
he
not? Why
mentioned
not?
yeah, doesn't make
Yeah,
sense, but yeah, we'll see if that happens. Shout out Max Duran who dropped into the spot. Appreciate you dropping in, Max. Who says Greb or Dempsey, who would win? That's a good question right there. Jack Dempsey, the great Manasseh Mauler, former world heavyweight champion, against Harry Greb, the Pittsburgh Windmill, former world middleweight champion. Of course, I put this to poll. We got a lot of responses and all this stuff. So the story goes, of course, is that Greb and Dempsey were in a sparring matchup at one point, or Greb, he was taking out a lot, or not Greb, but Dempsey, he was taking out a number of guys, and he usually didn't let up in sparring. And one day it just so happened that Harry Greb said he'll hop in there and give him a shot. And he gave Jack Dempsey all that he could handle, frustrating Jack Dempsey, who was really not able to lay much of anything on him, while he was able to tag Dempsey and show that, hey, size doesn't matter sometimes. So,
yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you got the right stuff in you.
yeah, so good question there, Max Duran. So realistically, Greb is a fighter who was capable of defeating heavyweights, so he could outpoint them. He was known to throw shots from all types of crazy angles. He was known to be a very busy fighter. He could work from the outside and, of course, inside as well later in his career, which is how he was able to slice up and dice up Gene Tunney, who's a comparable opponent that both Greb and Dipsy faced, though Tunney was at light heavyweight at the time. But that being said, Harry Greb wasn't a natural light heavyweight. So he was able to
Yeah,
dominate Gene Tunney in their first fight. And then I know another fight in that series, it was stated that he should have won, but he didn't get it on the cards, and it was very questionable. So Harry Greb, there's a potential he could outpoint a Jack Dempsey, especially the later career Jack Dempsey, and by later career meaning later career fights Jack Dempsey, the same plotting version of Jack Dempsey that was chasing Gene Tunney around the ring for 20 rounds and was able to drop him once, which was the long count fight. But outside of that particular round, Gene
I
Tunney
mean,
pretty much dominated that, plotting Jack Dempsey in the two fights that they had. So realistically, you could say that Greb could outpoint him as long as he stayed away from Dempsey's big shots. Now, that being said, the version of Dempsey who was hungry on the grind, the version that we saw destroy Jess Willard in 1919, then that would be one that I would be less inclined to jump in there with if I was a middleweight that didn't have much pop, such as Harry Greb. But we know Harry Greb would do it, so I would probably favor that version of Dempsey a bit more to be able to get the victory if they were have to fought at that particular point, because that version of Dempsey was just a mean cuss, and he was not to be denied on that particular day when he destroyed this 6'6", 240-pound Jess Willard, beat him from pillar to freaking post. And that's one of the fights that got me into the history of the sport. Seeing that video
yeah,
and seeing Jack Dempsey being the
three
one trying to
rounds.
destroy him. What was that,
It,
Boss?
he took only 3 rounds to destroy a guy
Three
so big.
rounds. And that first round was epic. One of the worst beatings you'll see in the sport of boxing in its history. And this is over 100 years ago. This was 1919. And you could just see Dempsey, especially when he teed off with that multi combination shot, capped by that big, I think it was a right that, or it might have been a left. I always mix that up, whether it's a left or right that sent him down that first time. And then, with you not having to retreat to the neutral corner at that time, Dempsey was just all over him every time he got up. As soon as he got up,
Yeah, right. Exactly.
just beat him. And
Mm.
that's the version of Dempsey. I would say that's one of the fights, or just seeing that clip is one that got me into the history of the sport. Just seeing how that was so long and we still had, or that was so long ago, we still had video footage of it. And this is very clear video footage as well. And just that right there was big time. So I think that certainly, if you rate them on a scale of who's the greater fighter, without a doubt, Harry Greb. He's one of the foremost fighters in the history of boxing. I could see you having Harry Greb number one. I could see you having Harry Greb number two. Anywhere between the top five, Harry Greb will be there. Jack Dempsey, of course, he's one of the great heavyweights in boxing history. And
Mm.
some might have him in their top 10 or whatever. I think you can make a legitimate case for him. But certainly, I would rate Greb as the better overall fighter. But the most popular fighter, arguably in the history of the sport, was without a doubt Jack Dempsey. He's one of my favorites. And I have some videos on him on the 86 Boxing channel because, yeah,
That
big
must
fan of
be.
Dempsey.
This must be the longest answer I have ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
Max, you had to ask him about boxing history. Shame on you, man.
Oh yeah, yeah, without a doubt. Rodolfo Rivera Jr. says, "Oh wow, Soldier Kearns, yes, Soldier Kearns, Rodolfo. You know about that? That's some big time stuff. Taking it way back. Tough fighter there, oh Soldier Kearns. Okolie,
Holy, a big shot businessman. Wow.
big shot Okolie. Lawrence, big shot Okolie. Alan says Shane McGinn mentioned Canelo and doesn't seem to want Reactor or Okolie for CBS. That is interesting to call out Canelo. Interesting. That
Well,
is pretty funny.
Holy, I understand he doesn't want Holy anymore, but React for it, I don't know. Well, he's not a champion or anything, but
But
he
yeah,
should.
I guess that Reactor rematch seems destined. I think that there are probably
Yeah,
going to be some offers made that CBS can't refuse. Him and his team can't refuse. You can just see that happening at some point. It seems meant to
yeah.
be.
I mean that would be the best fight for Dylan Smith because he don't want to just take on the other champions right away. That's like Opetea
Oh yeah.
or well, Badu Jack. I don't know. Well, anyway, I think he's also a little bit too good technically for probably for Smith, Dylan
Oh yeah.
Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That will. And Smith has, as mentioned, he has gotten better. He looks better. So
yeah,
yeah, it'll be interesting when it'll
yeah. Who
very
knows?
interesting.
Everything is possible.
Hijeka, what's up? Syrian,
Hey man,
in building. Let's go, baby. He says, "Hi guys, appreciate you dropping by." Hijeka, he said, "Did you guys watch the Okolie and Billum Smith fight?" Indeed. Well, I didn't watch it. I've seen the highlights, but the majority of people have already watched it. And yeah, we've been talking about it,
Vividly.
Hijeka, and talking about how Chris Billum Smith upset the apple cart in some sense. And
Yeah.
mind how things changed. It was just a year ago. It seemed like Lawrence Okoli and Chris Billum Smith would never fight each other, and just
Mhm.
like that, they're in the ring with each other. It's kind of crazy
Yeah.
how relationships turn all of a sudden.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know that one. That one tidbit. But anyway, yeah. Leon Smith is just a strong guy physically, and
Yeah,
I can also see him maybe eventually ending up as a heavyweight. Because even though he's not so, I mean, tall for today's heavyweight, he definitely has that kind of physique. More like
yeah,
a future
yeah. He's a
heavyweight.
big guy, solid guy.
Yeah, very big, like kind of muscular and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, very interesting. But yeah, so yeah, hijacker, we caught it, and it was a good one. Or it was I won't say a good one, but
Not a good one,
yeah,
definitely, but yeah,
Billum Smith was able to get some drop, or to drop him twice. I saw that. Coley
yeah,
was gashed there at the end, from what I saw in the highlights. He could
yeah.
he was barely
Macaulay,
standing up. It seemed like. Uh,
Macaulay managed to land some good punches, but not enough, of course. No, and he kept also holding and grabbing and clinching.
yeah, yeah. So
So,
Hijeka is just throw a Rich into the cruiserweight divisions, the plans at least. So now we're gonna see what's next for both guys. Maybe Okoli goes to heavyweight. Maybe Chris Billum Smith fights Opataya or one of these guys, or Reactpor. That's what we've been mentioning. The Reactpor fight seems to be like one that probably should be made, since the two have history and one of them now has a belt.
yeah, exactly.
Without a doubt. Martin Dustin. Salute, Martin. Appreciate you dropping in, buddy. I like that iconic picture in your profile there. Evening, gentlemen. Sorry I'm late. Hope
Yeah.
you both uh, good, and good evening to all in the chat. Sounds good, Martin. Appreciate it. Without a doubt, buddy. Glad to have you in here. Love having a dialogue with you, of course, Martin. Max Duran says, yeah, the Dempsey roll knocked him down. Yeah, the Dempsey roll. That's what it is. That Dempsey roll that ended up dropping Jess Willard. And man, Willard was destroyed to a level that is just next level, basically.
Yeah.
Next level.
Mm.
Max Run says, I'm sorry, I love boxing history. Appreciate it, Max.
Yeah.
No doubt about it, Max. Hey, you're all good. We love to talk
Yeah,
boxing history.
no need to be sorry.
Keep them coming, Max. We love boxing history. Dipsy, Grab, all the guys. Langford, you want to talk them? We got him. We got you covered, without
No,
a
no,
doubt.
no.
Martin Dunstan says thoughts on Lopez versus Conlon IBF featherweight fight. Now, did you see that one, Byron?
No, no, sorry, I didn't see it because it was on another network that I don't
Yeah, I know
have.
it was so much going on, so many matches going on yesterday. I feel like a
Yeah,
ton. I couldn't catch this up. I had this boxing event here in DC, so I was out there, and that was from like 2 to 7. So anything in between, I missed that. But I was able to catch some of the earlier UK shows. I caught a little bit of the Before the Bell. That's how I was able to catch the Ricky Hatton thing, but
hmm.
or not Ricky Hatton, but Kimball
Well,
Hatton fight.
I think
Uh,
this was maybe on BT Sport or something.
okay,
Yeah, probably
yeah.
because it was in Belfast, so it couldn't have been the same as the Okoli Will
Yeah, because
Smith
a Coley
fight.
versus Coley versus the other versus Chris Billon Smith was Sky Sports, because I was looking for that one. I
Yeah,
couldn't find it, but that one was Sky Sports. But yeah, Lopez Conlon, man, yeah, I saw what happened though. Even though I didn't see the fight, I did see the fight, see what ended the fight at least. And Luis Alberto Lopez dropped Mickey Conlon.
uppercut.
Man, it was a hook, or he caught him like as he was dipping down or something of that nature, and ended his night. And I'll admit, like when Colin first came on the scene in terms of as a pro, I know he did his thing as an amateur. While they were building him up, especially in the top ranks, no pun intended. While they were building up Colin, I was like, you know what, he's all right, but I'm not sold yet, but after he defeated and pretty much dominated TJ Doheny, I was like, you know what, this guy seems to have the goods because I had a lot of respect for Doheny and what he's able to do in the sport. And from there, I've given Conlon his respect and enjoyed watching him, and I do think he brings it. But man, yeah, Luis Alberto Lopez was able to get him out of there, and then the way that Leigh Wood contest ended that first time around was surprising. I thought
Easily.
Conlon was going to win that contest, but yeah, game changed right there. So Conlon is
Easily.
still in the mix there. He just has a
Yeah.
few things he'll have to work out, but man, hopefully he can keep his head on and not let him down right there. Just going here because he's still very talented, and hey, opportunity may come again. You know.
Yeah, he's in a rather stacked division after
Yeah.
all, so it's not so easy just conquer the whole division right away and go to the top, straight to the top. You have to sometimes suffer a defeat or two, and then maybe things get better and you
You
learn.
learn from them. Learn
Yeah,
from them for sure. And
100%.
yeah, he seems like he's the type who can certainly learn from them. So yeah, Martin,
Yeah,
this was a IBF title fight, featherweight title fight. Real quick, shout out to Flack Boxing who says, "What up, guys? Flack, salute to your brother. I know we've been chatting on some of the video content. Appreciate you, buddy. He's into the history as well. Check out Flack Boxing, baby. Appreciate you having you in here, Flat, without a doubt. We're talking about Conlon versus Luis Alberto Lopez, Mickey Conlon. So Martin Duncan says Conlon was game, but ultimately outgunned, and the corner was right to throw the towel in to save their man. Yeah, without a doubt. I'd rather it be that way, Martin. The corner does it. So far too often we see where the corner doesn't do it, and they're just pushing their guy
yeah,
to extreme. Like, for instance, last night, this was on the undercard of the Anthony Young and Alex Rocha fight, but there was Oscar Duarte. He was taking on some guy's last name was Keys. And man, this Keys guy was taking a beating. Duarte, he can punch, and he was just giving this guy a beating over the first 6 or 7 rounds before the doctor stopped it. But realistically, this guy's corner should have stopped it. And it wasn't because he wasn't fighting back, but man, he was just taking. He had been dropped twice, but he was taking a beating, a lot of headshots, and they were landing hard and often. And he had nothing he could offer in return that really did anything with Duarte, didn't hurt him or whatever. That's one. If you see it out there, just Oscar Duarte just gave this Keys guy a beating, and his corner kept sending him back out there, which they probably shouldn't have done. And that's an
yeah.
example of, it's up to the corners too. I know from being an official, the official plays a role. And as an official, yeah, I'm on the amateur side, of course. So if you see someone taking a ton of damage, you got to save the fighter. But certainly, no one knows that fighter in terms of what has been going on with them in the lead up to the fight date and all of that stuff better than the fighter's team. And therefore, teams should take the chance. You look at what is it? What is it? Shane McGeehan that was in Lee Wood's corner, or who was in Lee Wood's corner?
I think it was Ben Davison.
Ben Davidson, yeah, not Shane McGeehan. Ben Davidson, but Ben
Yeah,
Davidson, when he stopped that first Lee Wood Lara fight, I know a lot of people were mad that he did that, and
yeah,
he understood and he knew what was coming. And then look what happened. Lee Wood came back. It might not have been quite the
yeah.
same if he got brutally knocked out against Lara that first time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it takes you. It would have taken definitely a longer time to come back after such a really brutal loss. Yeah, so it wasn't that brutal, this way. It was better.
Yeah, yeah, and he came back and he dominated Mauricio Lara. So he got caught in that
Yeah.
last fight. Ben Davidson was like, "Hey, I saw the way he looked, and he was
Mm,
stumbling. He wasn't all the way there leg wise. You could tell his legs were a little bit gone. So he threw in the towel, and Lara was about to come in there and tee off because I think it was inevitable essentially that he was about to get knocked out by Lara after taking that huge shot. and he was doing well. He just got caught, so they made sure to
Yeah,
correct that this time around, and look at it, and he bounced back. So for Mickey Conlon, hey, correct some things. We'll see. He can get back in the mix. He's still fairly young, right?
yeah,
I
very
know
talented, but he has a chink or two in his armor, always, obviously. So
okay, so yeah, he's 31. Okay, a little bit older than I thought he was.
Lee Wood actually, but I like Lee Wood both as a person, as a fighter. He actually has improved, I would say. Because against Conlon, he didn't really look that great in the first, in the majority of the fight, you might say. He was losing when he pulled off that stoppage, but I mean, against Lara, he just outclassed the guy, and he also in the first fight before he got stopped. But now, especially, of course, it was a clinic, he put on
Oh
pretty
yeah,
much.
without a doubt. So yeah, I'm gonna go back and watch that Conlon Lopez fight in its entirety. But Martin Dustin says, yeah, I thought it was a good call. He wasn't beat up bad, but clearly outclassed. No point leaving the man in there to get slaughtered, without a doubt, because that accumulation of damage can be far worse than some of the short term or quick shots that get people out of there when you're just taking that beating over the course of several rounds. And we've seen that be fairly deadly and tragic in the past. So if a
Mm.
corner does it, shouldn't get mad at the corner. I mean, the corner knows him better than someone that's just sitting out in the audience or watching from home. So can't knock that. Shout out Fight Night Scores. Quickly checking in. Hope you boys are good. Good stuff, Jim. Appreciate you, buddy.
Hey,
Yeah, my bad. I
Jim.
was supposed to be on the Fight Night Score stream earlier today. I got timing and all that stuff mixed up, but they rescored out Larry Holmes versus Ken Norton, one of the best heavyweight fights out there,
Yeah.
action wise, that you can definitely
You
see
know
out
what?
on YouTube and all of that.
I actually had Ken Norton winning by a point.
Oh, interesting, interesting. I need to see it again, or you know what? Because I've seen much of it. I just need to sit down, watch it, and score it. I
Yeah,
haven't
it
done that.
was some rounds. I mean, several rounds were really hard to score, and both guys had their moments. But yeah, I thought Ken kind of deserved
Yeah,
it.
yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. So I'm gonna try and check that out there, Jim, and see what I come up with from a scoring perspective. 15 rounder. Remember the days of 15 rounders? Because I
Yeah,
saw, yeah, you're gonna be in that.
1978. I was like a newborn, like 6 months or something back then. I think it was in June or something. If I remember
Okay.
correctly, gonna check
Yeah. Good stuff.
exactly what date it was.
Good stuff. And check
It
out Fight Night Scores. Give them a
was
follow. A lot of great stuff and a great
yeah,
scoring
it was
page.
June the 9th. Hmm.
June the 9th, 78.
Yeah, 78 at Caesar's Palace.
Caesar's Palace. Caesar's Palace. Don't hear that name these days, but it was a little
No.
hotbed for a while, I guess you can say.
Yeah, you hear more like Caesar salad, maybe.
Yeah, 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 right, right. But yeah, good stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna go back and check it out. Hey, give Fight Night Scores a follow. Great stuff, great content over there. And go to fight-score.com's comprehensive scoring app that they need in boxing, especially in light of some of these crazy scores we see from judges these days. We need Fight Night Scores. So go check them out. Without a doubt. Martin Dunstan says 15 rounds seems like yesterday to me. I miss those days. Yeah, yeah, it does seem like yesterday, without a doubt. You've
I remember
you've seen the
when
shift now.
Bernard Hopkins, I watched that fight when he beat Glenn Johnson. He stopped him in the 11th round. Then he was like, oh, I wish all fights were 15 rounds now. It was kind of
Mm-hmm.
funny, but you only went 11, man. What do you mean? Like,
That is funny. But yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. 12 is here to stay, folks. 12 is here to stay. But yeah, 15 rounds, it was just there. Or it does seem like it wasn't too long ago.
Yeah.
Uh, I can't remember when they changed it. It was like 80 something, right? Um,
Yeah, it was kind of after that Mancini versus
Mancini,
Kim fight in '82
Kim
in November.
Duke
Yeah.
Kim or something like that.
but it did kind of take for a lot longer before it was completely, banned. The 15 rounders.
Yeah, it is interesting how it is. It's different for some folks because you seen George Chuvalo take some beatings and didn't affect him. So you
Yeah,
just never know how it goes. And that's against heavyweights. 'Cause in Chuvalo, he was eating some huge punches all the time.
he looks great for his age. I mean, the last time I saw him, I haven't
Yeah,
seen, yeah, for a few years, but he did look great a long time.
yeah, he's
Actually,
pretty. Yeah, he seems to be fairly low key off the scene. But
yeah, that guy is a Superman, oh man.
without a doubt, yeah, we've seen how that is over the years. Yeah, yeah, some fighters are just built different, as they say.
Yeah.
But yeah, good to go. So I was just looking. It looks like I'm looking at what else happened. So I didn't know there was a contest Wednesday in Australia, but Joseph Parker got back into the winning column
Oh
with the
yeah.
first round win, knockout.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
maybe a
wasn't
quick one
much
to
too.
watch somewhere.
Yeah, he fought some unknown guy. I don't know really who that was, but
Looks like a New Zealand or an Australian that
yeah,
he fought.
fair enough. I mean, fair enough. He needs a win or two, an easy one, at least one. Yeah,
Ashton Silva, he fought on the most valuable prospects card, which is a Jake Paul card that was on the zone on Thursday, I believe it was. I watched that, and they had a guy. Oh, it was Friday actually. Ashton Silva, who's 19. I remember seeing him when he was a little bit younger. He started as a pro. He was like 16, fighting in Mexico. But he's gonna be one of these guys whose name might come up to or come up a bit somewhere in the future. Ashton Silva. He's a what weight is he? He is a lightweight. So lightweight. So a lot of competition there at lightweight, as we know. So definitely got to make sure you're good.
yeah.
And then I was mentioning, yeah, Scrappy Ramirez. So Scrappy Ramirez, I like him as up and coming fighter who's been doing his thing. He was in a close, tough fight with this dude. I think his
Scrappy
name was
Ramirez.
Joseph Diaz or something
Did you
Diaz.
did you say his name was Scrappy?
Yeah, Scrappy Ramirez, John Scrappy Ramirez. They
Not
call him
Crappy,
Scrappy.
but Scrappy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like little Scrappy. He's a little small, compact fighter, but he's pretty solid. He's very skilled and athletic.
Like yeah, one
Dude,
of
kind of
those names. One of those names like battling Torres or yeah.
Yeah, his fighting style kind of reminds me of Adrian Broner, at least when Broner, earlier Broner, not
Right.
Broner as of late, but lightweight Broner, I guess you could say.
Not the stoner Broner.
Yeah, yeah, right. So yeah, his fighting style kind of reminds me of him. Oh, and then I want to shout out. I mentioned Duarte dominated this guy Keys, but
Yeah,
COLLAZO,
D'Angelo.
Oscar COLLAZO, he took on this fighter by the name of something Jerusalem, who was a minimum weight champion out of the Philippines. And Oscar
Mm,
COLLAZO, he's a 105 pound fighter, the minimum weight fighter from Puerto Rico. He's Puerto Rico's newest champion, and he dominated after the first two rounds. The first two rounds were Jerusalem. He was really giving
oh,
COLLAZO some pretty hard shots, messed up his eye a little bit. And you could argue the third, but then from there, COLLAZO took over. Oscar COLLAZO, this is a guy you need to check out. He's a Puerto Rican fighter at minimum weight. I think he can bring eyes to minimum weight because he's a very exciting fighter. He had a lot of amateur skill, or he had a lot of amateur fights. He had the amateur background, but he's 7-0 now, and he's a world champion at minimum weight. And he just looks to
see
have
how
the
easy.
goods.
See how easy it is. I mean, how quick one can become champion in those smallest divisions because there are so
Yeah,
many, many
yeah, he
fighters
fast
there.
tracked his way up there because, but
Yeah.
he's definitely someone you should check out if you haven't seen him. Oscar COLLAZO, Puerto Rican minimum weight champion, and he has the type of fighting style that will, I think, attract fans, similar to some of the best we've seen out of Puerto Rico. But he's very skilled. You can just tell because he made adjustments in this fight. Like I was mentioning, the Filipino guy was landing some huge shots on him in those first two rounds, but COLLAZO was able to bounce back and do his thing for sure.
Hmm.
And I think that he's one to watch as far as bringing excitement to minimum weight. And I think it'll help, having a name there. And I think he has the potential of being a person who can build a name, especially representing Puerto Rico. So the newest champion in Puerto Rico, I think, is him. And I think Jonathan Gonzalez still has a belt.
Hmm.
Uh,
But he's not related to Luis Colazo, I
I don't
suppose.
think so. Luis COLLAZO, the New Yorker.
Yeah,
Uh,
and a welterweight, and
but who
yeah,
knows? Maybe at some point down the line, they probably are related in some sense.
well,
but
yeah, maybe.
But yeah, you definitely think Luis COLLAZO. So there's a new COLLAZO in town just in time for Luis making his retirement announcement. Uh, so
Yeah,
so Oscar
he
COLLAZO,
was like he'll be the next Ivan Calderon.
yeah, but he's more exciting than Calderon because
Really,
Calderon wasn't really
he was a
I guess you
technician.
can say not really he didn't have pop. I guess you can say.
Yeah, he was a technician. Yeah,
Yeah. So this guy, he's technical and he seems to be able to punch very well for a 105 pounder, the pint
more
sized
like
package.
more like Ricardo Lopez,
Yeah,
Fidito.
yeah, yeah. So finito, yeah, he's gonna be more on that type of trajectory, I guess you can say. So he's an exciting fighter. So check him out if you haven't. Oscar COLLAZO. Martin
Yeah,
Dunson says changed to
cool.
12 rounds in 1987. Just look, okay, good stuff.
Hmm.
12 rounds in 87. I'm good to go. All right, yeah, seems to be here to stay for sure. The Rodolfo Revere Jr. says, yeah, I think the WBC started the 12 rounders. The rest of the sanctioning bodies followed suit. Okay, yeah, yeah. They were hoping the same with Bridgerweight. We'll see. Martin Dustin says, yep, you're absolutely right, Rodolfo. Flatbox says, I really like the Attell versus Miller matchup. What made you think of that when doing your poll? Salute Flat Boxing. Yeah, so I did put a poll up which featured the little Hebrew Abe Attell and then Freddie Miller, who was another fighter who had a crazy amount of fights. When you think about, I think he had like over 200 and something wins. Abe Attell, of course, a featherweight champion. He held it for like 10 years at one point, I believe. And he's regarded as one of the greatest fighters of all time. Fought in the early 1900s. And I knew of Abe Attell, of course, from just looking at some other channels and things in the past, like the boxing library and all that stuff. And once you really dive into his resume and all that, you see that he was a top level fighter, one of those small fighters out there. And similarly, I had heard mention of Freddie Miller on a number of occasions, and I've looked into him and I saw that he's another one of those guys who you don't hear, especially with Freddie Miller, you don't hear his name. It's very common. It's one of those common type names. You don't hear it mentioned as much, but he's a guy who actually was a top level fighter, featherweight champion, and he had the fight pace that is rarely matched by guys. Just thinking about the fact that he was able to have like I said, in excess of 200 plus fights, probably more than that, if you really think about it. I think there's a little bit of video of Freddie Miller out there. I think I saw something. British Pass has something, if I'm not mistaken. But that being said, I was just thinking of who could be matched with Attell, and I thought the fact that Freddie Miller being a featherweight champion there, flat boxing, who had a crazy amount of fights, even more so than Attell, that would make it very interesting because uh, Attell had probably some stronger names on his resume as far as quantity, and Miller did have some big names on his as well, but Attell probably had more quantity wise. But that being said, experience wise, Attell or Freddie Miller had just a ton of fights, and these are two contrasts in terms of two great champions. One of them held in higher regard, this being Abe Attell, and Miller, while being held in high regard, less known than Abe Attell when you really look through kind of how the mentions are, of course, references and such here in modern times. So I thought it would be a good one, a very interesting one there. Black boxing, Abe Attell versus Freddie Miller. That would be an interesting matchup. Um, yeah, I need to do a video on Abe Attell. Freddie Miller would be a good one too, but Abe Attell is someone I want to do a video on. Very interesting story. I remember
Mhm.
finding out. I was looking at a documentary on the White Sox scandal, Chicago White Sox scandal, and found out that Abe Attell had some form of involvement with that. If you all are familiar with the Chicago White Sox scandal, which was Shoeless Joe Jackson, who was the famous player out of from that
Yeah,
team.
19.
Yeah,
That was in 1919. Yeah, I know
yeah,
that there
yeah,
is a
yeah.
movie I watched about that. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
eight
Yeah,
man
yeah.
out.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I remember seeing stuff on it many years back, and I remember them mentioning Abe Attell, and I was like, Abe Attell, I've heard this fighter mentioned before, and then I kind of just dove into it and saw that, yeah, Abe Attell, great fighter, great featherweight champion, and he was able to move up and do his thing as well. But that being said, it's kind of crazy that he had some involvement with the Chicago White Sox scandal. So that adds intrigue to it. So I want to do a video on him at some point. The Little Hebrew, Abe Patel. That's that historic stuff right
Yeah.
there. Cool. I
Hmm.
was looking real quick. I think we talked about all the fights. I see Sam Eggington got a win. Shout out to Terry Harper, who got a win as well against Habezian or Habizin. Habazin.
Habazin.
Habazin. Yes,
Yes,
that's her. I remember seeing
Ivana
her before. I
Habazin.
know she's been in the mix
She's
before. I
from
think she fought.
Croatia. That's why I know. Yeah, that's
Okay,
why I
yeah,
know
she
how it's
fought
pronounced.
Clarissa Shields at one point, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I
When
think
Clarissa
so.
Shields had
She's fought a
unified
few.
154.
She fought also Cecilia Brækhus, who was supposed to fight there
Oh
against
yeah, yeah, right.
Harper, but she got a cold, so she
She
had
got
to
sick.
pull out. Yeah, so I think
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to
that
see
was
if she
better.
fights again.
Yeah, just as well. I think she will have won that fight. Really.
Paul Bright. Salute, Paul Bright. Thank you for dropping by, Paul. Good to see you, of course, buddy. He says, "What's going on, fellas? Sorry I'm late. Hey, appreciate you, Paul. We were just,
Yeah.
getting to the tidbits of wrapping some things up. We were talking a little bit of history and all that stuff in the mix. We were just
Mhm.
mentioning, yeah, some of the fights that had taken place, and a lot of good action this weekend. Hey, boxing is getting treated with some pretty good stuff here, some pretty good contests thus far, and we're about to, of course, get to even more. I guess you could say major fights here as time goes on because we have Crawford Spence that has been announced, etc. So appreciate you dropping by, Paul. Yeah, we are talking that. Flat Boxing says, "What are some of your favorite matchups throughout history?" what is one of your favorite matchups? Some of your favorite matchups there, Boz.
Throughout
Historic
history,
matchups.
that's going to be tough. Well, of course, Duran versus Leonard, both of them, of course. um, yeah, um, we know that Buster. Well, Douglas versus or Tyson versus Douglas was, of course, an
Oh yeah,
unforgettable match. But I mean, maybe if you're thinking of really spectacular matchups like two great names fighting each other, well, I don't know really. Hagler versus Leonard and
oh yeah,
of course Frazier versus Ali. You
oh yeah.
have
Those are classic.
yeah. So those will be pretty much the ones I think right now I can't come up with any
Yeah,
other.
yeah, yeah. Those are all great classics.
Yeah.
I remember doing on Random Acoustic Thoughts channel. Shout out Random Acoustic Thoughts, the 5 greatest fights in history. Now it wasn't. It was just kind of based on our own preference or whatever. And I had some that I listed there that I like, fights that I like watching. I definitely enjoy Oscar De La Hoya versus Felix Trinidad, or not Felix Trinidad, but
Quartet. Like
no, that was a good one. That was a good one.
yeah.
Fernando Vargas is what I'm thinking of.
Vargas. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that was
Oh
one of my.
yeah, and of course Holyfield versus Ball, of course, that trilogy.
Oh yeah, classic right there. Classics.
maybe the greatest heavyweight trilogy ever. probably.
Yeah. They were putting on some class, and they were really
Mm,
exchanging leather in all of those fights right there. It's
yeah,
crazy just to see that
amazing.
happening. But yeah, those are some good ones there. Flag boxing. If you go way back, go back. I do like watching some of the older stuff as well. I love to see the Max Smelling Joe Louis rivalry, I guess you can say, and seeing
Yeah,
how those fights went down, especially in that second fight, which was the fight of all fights. Some would argue the most important fight in the history of boxing, Smelling versus Lewis two. But
yeah.
man,
Schmeling.
yeah, as far as the case for Joe Louis being the greatest heavyweight of all time, man, that Smelling versus Lewis two matchup is a prime example. If you watch that in slow motion, which I have, if you watch it in slow motion, folks, you just get to see how devastating those punches that Joe Louis was landing on Smelling was. I mean,
And another great one from your time is, of course, Corrales versus Castillo one.
oh yeah, yeah, that was a good one right there. And the way it ended, classic. You put it in that
Yeah, wow.
classic territory. Joe Goose in there said,
Yeah,
"Hey, you better
you,
effing come on."
you better get inside of him now. Like,
Yeah, right. So yeah,
I
that's a
think, yeah,
classic one right there. And Tony Weeks was the official of that, so makes you question some of these other ones he stopped, like the Barros one or whatever, Barroso
oh yeah,
against
Barroso.
yeah thing. So Weeks has had some classic fights that he's been a part of. Paul Bright Holmes versus Cooney back in the day was underrated in my opinion. Salute Paul Bright. Oh
Mm,
yeah. Larry Holmes. I know Larry
I think,
thinks that he was robbed. Uh,
yeah.
but hey,
Holmes versus Cooney. Yeah, I don't think actually I've seen. I mean, I've seen kind of highlights of that fight, but I've never seen that whole fight. Believe
yeah, I
it or
might have to go back and watch it. Go through
yeah,
and watch it myself. I can't say for certain myself, but I know that Larry has a strong opinion about it for sure.
yeah. It was so funny when Tex Cobb. It was like roasting Larry. Did you ever see that? You need to see that. It's so funny. And he says like I fought Larry after he got through with Jerry because it was that
Oh yeah,
same
yeah.
year. So it was like they asked me or they asked Larry about what's the difference, and because they were both, I don't know why, because they were both white fighters, maybe, I don't know. So he said, against Jerry Cooney, everybody was really attacking me, Holmes said,
Oh
because
yeah,
Jerry
yeah.
was so big, so popular. But, against Tex Cobb, I'm just a nobody, I mean? It's just
There you
another
go.
fight.
Yeah. And I say he got robbed. So he won that. He feels he got robbed against Spinks, but against Cooney, he feels that they were going to rob him against Jerry Cooney. Is what I'm trying to
Right.
actually say. Thinking about it.
Well, the first fight, I thought Spinks clearly won that, but I don't know. Second one was very close. I thought,
Yeah, yeah, it's one of those things, Larry's a very opinionated fighter for sure. Flat boxing as Gans is a perfect fighter for mythical matchups, without a doubt. Definitely love Joe Gans. He's had some classics out there. Going back to watch like Gans versus Battling Nelson, they have a good deal of footage on that is out there. A good deal of that. I believe it might have been the first fight or whatever. It's kind of crazy to see them. That was 46 rounds in the heat. I believe it was out in Nevada somewhere, uh, and they were battling it out. Joe Gans did his thing. Battling Nelson was fouling him left and right, and Gans ended up winning because Nelson was disqualified for blatant low blows. But that being said, yeah, Joe Gans is one of those guys. Yeah, can stand the test of time. Just supremely skilled. One of my favorites, certainly. Thinking
yeah,
about it all the time. Max Duran says Frazier versus Ali was great as well, without a doubt. Yeah, that trilogy right there is a classic one for sure. I mean,
oh
they
yeah,
brought the heat. They brought the heat each time out. They were just made for each other. It's good to have that sort of rival or that fighter that you match up with that is like that. It's like tailor made for excellent matchups or excellent contests when they do battle it out.
But on the other side, there the Duran Leonard versus Duran was a trilogy that never should have been made because the
Oh
third
yeah,
fight was Duran had to go up. He was so slow and got fat. I guess I don't know. He wasn't in
yeah,
good
yeah.
shape. He had to move up like in just a few months after winning the middleweight title, against Barkley. So
Oh yeah,
yeah, that
yeah,
was a poor fight.
yeah. Some trilogies aren't needed. Sort of like
Yeah,
or they come at a time where they're. I feel the same way about recent times. Of course, Canelo Triple G. By the time that trilogy came, it just wasn't going to be the same type of fight. Didn't even have the same type of interest and atmosphere that it previously had
yeah,
because the time in between. Flat Boxing says
yeah,
Max Baer was a
definitely.
wild man. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely the third Canelo Triple G fight. I never should have made that. That was BS. That was all circus.
Oh yeah, yeah, without a doubt. Flat Boxing says Max Baer was a wild man. If he had you hurt, he would never stop throwing heat. Yeah, without a doubt. One
Yeah,
of my favorites right there, the Livermore Lariper. What do they call him? Sub else Maxis? Not what the heck is
slept.
that?
I don't know.
Not Slapsy, it's freaking Madcap Maxis.
Madcap. Yeah,
Madcap Maxi, yeah.
he
One of
was a
the
clown.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, or the Clown Prince of Boxing, one of the big
yeah.
punchers in heavyweight history, and he was legit. Seeing
He
the way
was
he,
amazing. Yeah, in his
yeah,
own way.
he wasn't as polished from a technical standpoint, but the man could punch without a doubt. You can see he had broad shoulders, big chest. He was a solid dude, and
Yeah.
man, when he got to throwing those heaters, he could change the game for sure.
Oh yeah.
I love to see him going at it with Primo Canera, even though there was some fumbling and bumbling around the ring that was going on. But he was giving Canera a beating, and Canero's a big dude. He's as we all know, about 6'6", 250. That's what
Yeah.
he was, somewhere in there or more actually.
And
And he
very
was a big
like
dude,
also very muscular as
very
well.
muscular, very thick guy. I remember seeing
Yeah.
at the International Boxing Hall of Fame. I remember went there and I saw the fist casting for Canero. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. His fists were huge. Had to be some of
Yeah.
the biggest fists in the history of the sport, as far as what they have recorded. At least those things were huge and they stood out. And you look at his fist compared to some of the. I think his was in there with Joe Louis, for instance. And his
Yeah.
just trumped Joe Louis's fist. And you just think, wow, this dude with this huge dadgum fist and him throwing shots at you, all that good stuff, craziness. But
Yeah, I know they wanted to ban him because he was so huge for that time. Yeah.
yeah, he was huge. But hey, if you were technically sound enough or had enough punch, you could get him out of there for sure. Joe Louis showed that the bigger they are, the harder they fall. But Joe Louis,
Yeah.
man, he's so precise and just profound with his punches. He's had those short hooks that would just have the right amount of force and torque that you just do damage. Love seeing Joe Louis doing his thing. But yeah, Madcap Maxi is my guy right there. Of course, story behind the Cinderella Man was James J. Braddock defeating him. Very good, very good book. And the movie I thought was not too bad as well,
Mm.
actually. But yeah, Max Baer, one of my favorites. I have a book over here, as a matter of fact, of Max Baer. Look, this is the thing. Look at there. That's my guy right here, Max Baer, the Magnificent. Colleen Acock. We need to get her on to have a talk with her. I still need to read the book in its entirety. I've read a good deal of it. I'm probably about right there. I still have it bookmarked. I need to finish this. I need to go ahead. The Magnificent Max Baer. I got this book for like $2 or $2 or $3 or something. I saw it and I was like, I can't pass that up. But yeah, I love Max Baer, and he was a true playboy in the sport. He was dating the hotties, as they say. He was holding it down. He was rolling big
Oh
time. He
yeah.
had the suits decked out. He had the car to match. You know what I'm saying? Big timing out there, Max Baer. You know what I'm saying? Rolling with the Hollywood darlings.
Oh yeah.
Martin Dustin says Clay Ali versus Williams, one of my favorite fights without a doubt. There, Martin Dunstan. That's one that I had on my list that I did on the Random Acoustic Thought Show. I think that version of Muhammad Ali is just pure gold. That's my favorite heavyweight. Well, Mike Tyson is, but I view Muhammad Ali is the greatest heavyweight of all time. I guess you could say he's my favorite too. But that being
You
said,
and
on
Williams.
next
Yeah.
level. Next level. Cleveland Big Cat Williams was a big puncher, and Ali just dominated him. Didn't allow them to lay hands on him, and Ali just blazing fast speed. Some of those combinations just dropped him. Cleveland couldn't handle what was coming speed wise. Ali was different, without a doubt. Flat Boxing says Maxie Rosenboom was Slapsy Maxie, 223 wins, 19 KOs. Big emphasis on that right there, 19 KOs. So you know that meant that Slapsy Maxie had to outbox his opponents to get those victories. And if you think about that, the amount of fights that he had, and the fact that he was actually going the distance more oftentimes than not, and that right there isn't even doing it justice. He was pretty much always going the distance. Just shows you how skilled the man was. And it's also crazy that despite all those fights, we have no video footage of him, which is insane. But Slapsy Maxie, he was a guy who can move in there, he can box well, and very skilled. Apparently, he could take a punch too. You know what I'm saying? Because he's not someone you could just get out there easily, but he could dip and dodge. Definitely stay away. Had good footwork, from what I understand and what I've read, and so that allowed him to have most players on top. So he's been in there with some of everybody. When you think about those great boxing resumes, Slapsy Maxie Rosenblum is one of those guys who's right up there at the top. He doesn't often get mentioned, probably like he should be, but he's right up there at the top. Especially if you're thinking about greatest light heavyweights, you have to throw his name there in the mix as one of the top ever. But then, just in general, he translates to greatest fighters ever as well, just because of what he was able to do. I mean, you name it, he's been in there with them. Everyone, essentially. Salute Andre Rodriguez. We're in the building, baby. Andre Rodriguez says, "Hey, everyone, passing by to wish a good show. I'm in an amateur tournament. Portimao Box Cup. Oh, cool. Watching these new prospects. Hey, catch you live later. Peace out. Salute, Andre. Have a good one, buddy. My fellow official doing his thing out there. Yeah, I was at a thing yesterday. As a matter of fact, a show here in DC. It was good. Had a great time. A lot of good fights. It was out in the sun, as I mentioned. But yeah, outdoor boxing. That's what's up. But good luck there, Andre. Appreciate you dropping by, buddy. Paul Bright says Canelo needs to stop ducking Benavidez and Charlo. Yeah, hey, we want to see him fight one of those. I don't know about Charlo. He seems to have some kind of injury going on or something, because he's been out for 2 years now. Something's going on with Jamal Charlo, so I don't know if that's gonna actually happen. Just given, I don't know exactly what it is, but something is happening with him. But Benavidez, yes, there's nothing stopping the Benavidez fight from being made, as far as I'm concerned. Canelo has said that he's gonna fight in September, and it should be David Benavidez. That's what the fans want. We've been clamoring for it for a good little bit, and I think it's an exciting fight. Second best fight in boxing, I guess you can say. That's what I would say. That's the second best fight in boxing. I did have it at one when I thought Crawford Spence wouldn't be made, but now it's made. The next best thing I feel for right now, at the very least, is Canelo versus Benavidez, and I think it will deliver. We'll see if Canelo is really slipped, and we'll see if Benavidez is the boogeyman that we all view him as. And so far, it looks like he is.
Yeah, so far, yeah, definitely, yeah. Oh man.
So we'll see what goes down. Salute there,
My
Paul Wright.
voice.
Very fitting name
Yeah.
there. All right. Flat Boxer says even Buddy Bear was a hoop puncher too. It ran in the family without a doubt. I need to check out more of Buddy's stuff. I know he ran into Joe Louis, much like his brother, and we know Joe Louis at that particular period was nearly unbeatable heavyweight, I guess you can say. So yeah, Buddy Bear, that's another one. But yeah, they both came up. You
Yeah,
know,
huge guy.
after on the farms, they were doing a lot of work with their father. If I recall correct, I can't remember exactly what type of farmer he was, but they went to different spots or whatever. But I know they were doing a lot of work out there with their fathers on the farm and on the farms, and that's what kind of helped build up that strength. Not unlike Bob Fitzsimmons doing work with his father as a blacksmith for working those types of metals, etc., and how that kind of built his physique and that power, that natural power that he was able to carry over to the sport of boxing as well. Hey, you never know what can be the catalyst for you stepping in and stepping out. Black Boxing says boxing moves are horrible. I personally can't stand the inaccuracies and over exaggerated stereotypes. Yeah, they do that. They did
Yeah,
that with
sure.
they definitely did that with Max Baer in Cinderella Man. They made him out to be a
Yeah,
bad guy.
they must make everything more dramatic than it was, in order to
Yeah.
get more,
Yeah,
attention.
Max Baer was not that type of guy. He wasn't even a guy who actually loved boxing. He was a jovial, fun-loving guy. He didn't actually like beating
Yeah.
up on other opponents. He just did it basically, I guess you could say, for the money. And hey, that's how
Mm.
it is for some. But yeah, they definitely didn't depict him properly in that. I did like the Hands of Stone. I thought that was a very good boxing movie right there. I like the
Yeah,
way
it
they went about
was.
that one.
Yeah, that one was pretty realistic. Yeah,
Yeah, they kind of centered it around that. I think the good thing is they kind of centered it around the Leonard fights, and I guess that kind of helped to shape it and mold it into something that was really a really good cinematic depiction. It
yeah.
felt real in a sense. So that's one that I thought was one of my favorites. Now I still need to see the Vinny Paz movie. I haven't seen it. Bleed for
Well, I have
this movie.
seen it. Yeah, it's
What do you
pretty
think
good.
of it?
It's pretty good. Definitely, it's not bad. I mean, it's very dramatic. As yeah, I mean, it kind of focuses on his how to say after the accident and all that, how he rebuilt his career and stuff, or also before the accident. But yeah, about his when he was trained by Kevin Rooney and all that.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, Ken Rudy. Good to go.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
Rooney kind of got him back after he had a series of losses and where he didn't look so good. Rooney got him back, in how to say in shape and all that. Gave him
Cool.
some kind of
Good
confidence
stuff.
back. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta check that one out. I'm gonna try to check that out soon, as a matter
Mm.
of fact. And then of course I'm gonna watch Big George Foreman. I'll probably try to watch that a little bit today or later
Oh
today or
yeah.
something. Uh, that's a
I
good one.
started to watch it at my friends, when I was, but then I had to go take the train home,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
that's one I'm gonna check out. Probably check that out today, as a matter of fact. Always some boxing going on, but that's a good one. I know my buddy, fellow referee Jose Flores in there, so salute to Jose. I know I've mentioned that, but yeah, there may be some other ones coming out. We'll see how they do. We'll definitely see how they do. Paul Bryce says, yeah, Max Baer was great, without a doubt. Definitely one of the great characters of the sport
I'm
right there.
sure. Yeah.
Max Baer. And then Flatbox said Max had an absurdly long wingspan. Indeed, he did. Yeah, he was yeah, and it was just like a natural thing for him. It's crazy, but yeah, Max definitely one of those heavyweight champions who was able to stamp his name in the game, even though his reign was short lived in a sense.
Yeah,
But
like a
he was able to
year
do
or
his thing.
something. Yeah. Hmm.
But cool. But all right, folks.
All
Yeah,
right.
we're hitting that 2 hour mark. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
2 minutes away, so we're gonna have to wrap this thing up. So we definitely appreciate everyone dropping in.
Fine by me.
Yeah, I was looking real quick. Yeah, we're gonna have a card on Thursday. That's gonna be an ESPN card. I'm thinking it's taking place in Canada. Yeah, Montreal might be Group Yvonne Michelle. Then you have Clarissa Shields going to take on something Cornejo. I forget her first name, but Clarissa Shields is going to
Right.
dominate her because I think it's Marta Cornejo or something like that. But Clarissa Shields is going to dominate her because she's not on that level. Of course, the fight with Hannah Gabriel's is off because of Hannah Gabriel's popping on a test. But she provided an explanation on her Instagram Live that, yeah, people can check out. They'll make their own thoughts on it. But that's what's up for next weekend. But for the time being, of course, yeah, we're going to wrap this thing up. Max Duran, yeah, thank you guys. Have a great rest of your day. God bless. Thank you. Same to you, Max Duran. We definitely appreciate you dropping by. Definitely always love to have the good discussions, flat boxing as well.
Mm,
And then Flat Boxing says, just watch how Max talked about Joe Lewis. Never a bad thing, yet he's horrible in Cinderella Man. Yeah, Ron Howard. Well, I guess I don't know if he wrote it or at least was involved with that, but yeah, the way they directed it did make him out to be a bad guy, which he was not. So,
yeah,
but yeah, it's one of those things.
I know
Adios, amigos from Hall Bright.
Max's son was very angry about it. I read an interview with
Oh,
him
yeah,
back
Max
then.
Bear Jr.
Yeah, huge guy also.
Yeah. Martin Dustin says, nice one, fellas. Catch you all. Take care. You as well, Martin. Flat Boxing. See ya. Appreciate all of you dropping in. Andre Rodriguez, Hajeka, Allen, Beagle, Mr. Patch, Rodolfo Rivera Jr., Melissa Ty, everyone. Yeah, we appreciate the love. Appreciate the love. So we will be back with some stuff. Be on the lookout for a new video that's going to be dropping, I hope, at some point soon as well. And
Hmm.
the topic is going to center around John L. Sullivan, of course. Who would have
Who
done?
else?
I know, right. But good stuff. All right, have a good one, everyone.
Bye.